You're listening to the Behind Ears podcast, because everybody does Disney differently. The Behind Ears podcast crew would like to thank the following sponsors for their generous support. If you have a little one and you're going to Walt Disney World, you're going to need a stroller. I'll tell you what, KingdomStrollers.com is the place where you want to look into. I'll tell you, I've destroyed my fair share of strollers while at Walt Disney World, and those things are not cheap. But getting something from KingdomStrollers.com, they'll be able to help you pick out the perfect stroller for you. And the nice part is that because they're a Disney preferred provider, they'll be able to drop it off and pick it up right from your Disney resort at no extra charge. So if you don't want to necessarily destroy your stroller in the process, and you want to have a great Disney vacation with your little one, contact KingdomStrollers.com and they'll set you right up. That's KingdomStrollers.com. Do you want to save around 40% off Disney's prices for deluxe on-property accommodations? Contact DVC-rental.com. They help out Disney Vacation Club owners rent out points that they're not going to use. These points mean savings for you on your next trip at Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Vero Beach, Florida, and Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. The DVC member books everything in your name, just like any other reservation. And if you ever decide that you want to become a DVC member, you can check out our sister company, BuyAndSellDVC.com. As a licensed realtor, they sell DVC contracts for members at a savings of 30 to 40% off Disney's prices. And if you're looking to sell your contract, BuyAndSellDVC.com has one of the industry's lowest commissions at only 6.5%. Again, that's DVC-rental.com for your rental needs, and BuyAndSellDVC.com to buy or sell into the Disney Vacation Club at a large discount. And make sure you tell them that the Behind Ears podcast crew sent you.
Attention wizards and witches. The Expedition Roasters head roastmaster is pleased to announce the release of 4 new wizarding brews. Are you charming and courageous, book-smart and brilliant, big-hearted and kind, or possibly cunning and ambitious? You may have to try all 4 to find out which house roast you belong to. So cast a transporting spell over to expeditionroasters.com to begin your journey. And don't forget to continue your adventure with our large selection of pop culture-inspired themed coffees. There's always an adventure in every bag. Behind the Ears podcast fans, be sure to use the code EARS20 for 20% off your first order. That's EARS20 at expeditionroasters.com. Brew, your happy place.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for tuning into another episode of Behind the Ears podcast. I'm Uncle Danny, the man on the other side of the glass, patiently waiting his turn. That is Mr. Chris. Sir, how are you doing on this Friday Eve?
Even though I have patience, it does not make me a doctor.
The jokes do not get better, people.
No, they don't.
They do not. So we got a fun, exciting little episode tonight. Something that a lot of shows do, something that we have done a lot in the past, but people are always excited when the show comes around. And that is a mailbag episode where we dig into the mailbag of everything you guys sent via Facebook messages to either one of us, to the show, commenting on a post with a question, or even emailing us questions. So I'm going to pass it off to Chris. We both have a couple questions in front of us. What is the first question of the evening?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm actually going to dig into the mailbag from when we actually did our last contest. And by the way, we had a ton of people that actually entered the contest that actually provided questions. So don't be surprised if we don't get to your particular question tonight, because we'll just use it for another episode. So I am going to pull this one up kind of by random. And this comes from Chris and Christina Beach. And they say, "Hey, Mr. Chris, Uncle Danny, do you really think the Skyliner gondola cars really aren't going to have air conditioning? Hopefully at least fans, if not air conditioning. Also, do you see any validity in phase 2 of the Skyliner going from Hollywood Studios Coronado Springs, Animal Kingdom Lodge? Or how would that work so well with the new Zootopia land that'd be added to Rafiki's Planet Watch? So keep up the good work. Behind Ears podcast is awesome. Sent by Chris and Christina. First off, thank you so much for the kind words. So here's the thing. There's been a little bit of controversy over the idea of whether or not it has air conditioning or not. Some people have said, yes, it's going to have air conditioning. But then I've also heard some people say, no, it's not. But then some people say they'll have air conditioning, but it's not really going to be like the typical Disney Arctic air conditioning. That it may be like an air cooler. That may just...
Aren't they open?
You know, that's the thing. They don't look like they're totally open, but they don't look like they're totally closed either. You know, that's like... Not like the old gondolas they had for the... the highway in the sky, so to speak, that they had over at the Magic Kingdom. Those were totally open. I don't think it's that. Now, I've seen pictures of these things, and I can't really tell because, they're kind of still in, kind of a weird packing phase. Let's put it this way. If you're moving at a regular constant pace, it's going to be breezy to begin with. I mean, it's kind of funny because think of it, if you've ever been on a cruise ship, you feel like if you're not outside, the cruise ship is barely moving. You walk outside onto the balcony or, on one of the main decks, and it's a huge breeze because you are traveling at 20 miles an hour. So it's like having a 20 mile an hour breeze. And supposedly there is going to be some sort of, now I've heard, unconfirmed, totally unconfirmed, some sort of solar powered, air cooling type of device. I don't know. So that's my take, Danny. I don't know if you've heard anything else.
I have not heard anything that you have not heard. I would probably lean towards the idea of it being more of a fan than anything else, because they're not going to be fully open because that's a major. This is not 1975. Major lawsuits if that thing is. It'll be open. It'll be open air, but it will be probably very barred out, almost essentially. Like, I don't want to call it a jail cell,
mesh.
But what?
I'm thinking more mesh.
You think I think that someone can get through a mesh. You can't get through bars.
Really find almost like the perforated metal, where you can still see out really
like a cage.
well.
You put your hand like a fence.
I don't know. The thing of it is that
it's a cage in the sky. Let's call it what it is.
I've seen so many different pictures on it, though. That's the problem.
Well, because they're not going to show that aspect of it because that doesn't look fun and cute, but the safety aspect of it is you're probably going to need something like that. Listen, during most of the year, a fan and they're going to move slow, but the distance you're going, you should be okay. I'm more concerned on that July to September, the Africa hot days, where the metal might start like dripping because of how, it's just melting from the sun. Those are the months I'm curious about, but until they come out, I mean, it'd be all speculation. The whole idea of Zootopia going to Rafiki's Planet Watch, we're kind of seeing that go by the wayside because they're talking about reopening Rafiki's Planet Watch. So on that aspect, the whole idea of moving it over to Animal Kingdom, that's a big stretch, guys.
Yeah,
and it's a slow-moving vehicle.
Yeah, the thing of it is that I think this is mainly to supplement, but I'm not going to say they're not going to do something like that, because they probably could. But the thing is that if they do, it's not going to be for a while. I don't necessarily know if I could see it going from Hollywood Studios to Coronado Springs to Animal Kingdom, that type of thing. I just don't know. I suppose it could, but I don't think they're going to make it go through the park. That type of thing. No, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think that is going to be that's going to be a no-go. That's my 2 cents.
So as we go through these questions, me and Chris will answer. You guys can chime in if you want to. Also, like what Molly did, if you've got a question, we will do our best to answer it. Just throw it up there, and we'll see if we can get to it. But now that I speak of it, Molly wants to know, where can I find Moana in the parks? And I'm going to say nowhere.
Not right now. The thing is that there was, Moana was at the Polynesian for a little bit, right when Moana was out. The movie was out. but it's been very difficult to find her anywhere. And so far, I mean, it's been a very common question, and appreciate you bringing it up, Molly. As far as I know, I haven't seen Moana at the parks, at least not this past summer. And it's kind of a shame if you ask me, because I think that she was very much in demand when she was around, and then all of a sudden she disappeared. I just don't know. By the way, just one other quick note. If you do post a question sometime this evening into the comment section and we don't get to it, don't worry. I usually answer a lot of the questions that we don't get to the following morning before work. I usually grab myself a cup of Expedition Roasters coffee and sit back and try to answer questions, comments, etc. that we didn't get to during the show. So if we miss you out, I'll take care of you tomorrow. So,
and thanks to Mary and Wendy, they're saying that you can find her at the Halloween party. At least that's something. I mean, it's an extra hard ticket, but at least, hey, but it's better than not being in the parks at all, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, all right. So we have another question. It was posted a few weeks ago, and I had gotten into conversation with Donald. He's an avid listener. Okay. Unfortunately, with his work schedule, he does not make our live shows, but he's one of those listeners that go back, and he's not a podcast listener, which I was kind of surprised with, but he rewatches our shows the next day, which we're seeing a big trend with. I mean, tonight, you know, we'll end the show with 1,000 to 2,000 views on a video, and then all of a sudden it pumps up to like 3 overnight. I'm like, whoa, a lot of people really wanted to get back into it. So I've got a question, if y'all don't mind helping me out. And once again, you could always post your questions over at the WDW community page. If you are not a part of it yet, head on over there, because we have a great big community of 4,000 members that love interacting. Back to Donald's question, excuse me. We're fixing to take a trip to Disney in December, and I haven't been in a long time. Put a lot of O's in there. Do you all have any recommendations for a restaurant that a 4 and 5-year-old would dig? Thanks in advance. So before we get into it, let's just go through a couple places that were mentioned inside the comment section. Alicia says Crystal Palace. Carol said Ohana. Ariel said T-Rex at Disney Springs, which I think is a good one. Yeah. Joanne said Tusker House, Crystal Palace. Julie echoed the T-Rex, Chef Mickey's, Sci-Fi Diner. Ashley said Planet Hollywood and Tusker House. Out of those, I mean, T-Rex, I think T-Rex is great, but I'm not sure. Really, you have to know your kids if T-Rex is going to scare them.
It can get loud,
especially with the especially when the meteor hits, essentially.
No, the meteor shower is when it happens over at Rainforest Cafe. No, that's the volcano, I believe.
The volcano is at Rainforest Cafe. The meteor shower is
over at T-Rex. Yeah. I myself, I do like T-Rex. I will say it can get loud if your kids get a little bit nervous around that. You can ask them to possibly seat you in the Ice Age area, which is really kind of cool because it makes you look like kind of looks like you're eating in a big gigantic glacier. It's really kind of cool. It really is. I'll be honest with you. By the way, the food at T-Rex is it's good. It's not fantastic. You get a lot of it. It's a
Rainforest Cafe, Planet Hollywood style food.
It really is. I mean, it's not bad. And I usually tend to stay away from chains, but there's not a T-Rex anywhere near me, so I kind of am allowed by my own rule to go there if I want to.
So me and Gordon are on the same wavelength here. We both said the same thing. The Hoop-de-Doo review. I had messaged that in the comment section, and me and him chatted a little bit on the side. You know, fair warning to anybody's listening. It's like, oh, Hoop-de-Doo review. It sounds great. You know, you get a show, you get a meal. It's bottomless food, bottomless drinks. It's a good time. It is expensive. It was never as expensive as it has become. It has become extremely more expensive. Me and Chris differ on seating. Chris doesn't mind sitting up top. I prefer the bottom. It's more interaction. Even though if you do sit up on the balcony, though, you do get interaction with the characters. You don't get, you're not, the redheaded stepchild up there. But they also did not do a good job of seating up there where depending on where you sit, your back could be to the show the entire time. The whole point is you want to eat while they're, performing, and it's hard to eat when you're like trying to watch a show and do this the entire time.
Yeah. There are some places.
But I think Yeah.
There are some places on the main floor that are kind of like that as well. The idea is to have like the kids and stuff be able to face forward towards the stage during the show. That's just, as parents, we can adapt a little better. But at least have the kids in either on the sides or in a way that they can see the stage.
Yeah.
They'll be thoroughly entertained while they eat.
Yeah, I think that's, I thought Hoop De Doo was a great option. It is, like I said, once again, a little pricey, but, fantastic. One of my other options, then I'll pass to Chris, because, we could go all night about these restaurants because there's so many. So I think we'll do two apiece. This is not a meal. So I got to pre-warn everybody. This is not an actual meal. So I guess it kind of doesn't count. It's like my 1A. Mickey's Campfire.
Okay.
You can roast s'mores. They all come out in like flannels, and Goofy is there. Very, very good for the kids. Great family atmosphere, right on the water. I loved it. But once again, that's not really a meal. Now, I don't know if he has boys or girls, but if he has girls, I would say Cinderella's royal table inside the castle. You want to get treated by royalty.
Yeah.
Now, the food for kids isn't that good. It's a little more. It's not your typical. They have chicken fingers, but depending on your palate, even as adults, you might not like their menu. But if you have a little, not I don't want to say adventurous, but a little more than your average burgers and salads and chickens, their menu's a little more out there. But it's really good. So those would be my 2.5 answers.
I think when I answered this question, I said, you can't go wrong with Chef Mickey's, and to me, that was always the thrill to see my kids at, the younger ages being able to see Mickey for the first time, so to speak. I know it's gotten some mixed reviews lately. I myself can honestly say every time I've gone to Chef Mickey's, I've been satisfied. Been satisfied with the service, been satisfied with the food, been satisfied with the character interaction, never really felt rushed. I've been there for breakfast. I've been there for dinner. I've been there for, middle of the day type of thing. So I've had really good experiences there, and I've probably been there 6, 7, maybe 8 times over the past 10 years, 10, 15 years maybe. So it's not an every trip type of thing, because we do try to go to other places as well. I do think it's a great option. One other place that I think is also really good if you want to take a little bit of a step out a little bit further, I actually think the breakfast, character breakfast over at the Beach Club over at Cape May Cafe is also really good. And I actually personally really enjoy the character interaction there. The food is really good, even for, I won't say even for breakfast, but you have a lot of your regular breakfast fare, and I never felt rushed. And besides, the Beach Club, it's just a nice, relaxing resort to be at. Mm-hmm. And if you're planning on going to Epcot that day, it's a perfect little adjunct. You can actually set it up for a little bit later in the morning, so you get to Epcot early. You do some things at Epcot, walk on over there, and yes, even though World Showcase may not yet be open, they will allow you to go through it in order to walk over to Cape May Cafe over at the Beach Club. I really like it, and so you can do that, or grab an Uber, grab a minivan, whatever, to go over there and start your morning there. It's a great way to do it.
Yep. All right, what else we got going on?
Okay, let me go back a little bit to my list of questions. This is actually a really good planning question, and it comes from our friend Craig Volker. I hope I pronounced your name right, Craig. He goes, "Hey everyone, my question would be, when traveling to Disney, do you prefer arriving in the morning, afternoon, or evening? Also, when leaving, whether by force or willing, what time do you like leaving, morning, afternoon, or evening? Granted, these answers may depend on who you're with, kids or significant other." That's a really good question. So, Craig, let me tell you a little something. Here's the thing. It kind of depends on how much time I have for my vacation, and also, am I doing a split stay, or also if I'm driving or if I'm flying. And because even if you're driving, I still have plans on whether or not what time I'm going to get there. I have driven in such a way where I would arrive at 10 o'clock at night. And at that case, I'm staying at a value. The next morning, I'm probably checking into my DVC resort. This past summer, I did 2 trips. Both trips, we left, either Chicago or Indianapolis before the crack of dawn. And we were actually able to have breakfast, able to have breakfast at Walt Disney World, even come close to making it to rope drop, giving us a full entire day. Yes, it can make it for a long day, a really long day, but that's the way it works. As for leaving, for me, if I'm driving, usually we leave no later than, say, 3 or 4 o'clock, because usually we make a stop in Atlanta on the way back up. It's about 7 hours, so it makes a pretty lengthy drive after being at the parks all day. If we're flying, I usually try to get somewhere between a 6 to 8 o'clock p.m. flight. That way I get to whatever airport by 8 or 10 depending, and I'm usually home by midnight. So that's my preferences. What about you, Danny?
Oh boy. Definitely flying in. I like the as early as possible flight. I don't check, I'll just go to the hotel to see if I can check in, and usually you never can. Sometimes you get lucky, but that's why I always carry my day bag with me, and I'll get changed in the bathroom and boom, off to the park I go. I check my bags. We're golden. Coming home, if I'm flying home on a Sunday and I've got work in the morning on Monday, I will try for that afternoon flight, but more than likely, I always like to give myself one day of relaxation when I get home to get back to reality, do laundry. And I try to always leave the latest possible, especially knowing that Magical Express picks you up 3 hours in advance, or if you're driving to the airport, you got to return a rental car, fill it up with gas, shuttle over, blah, blah, blah. So I always try to get the latest flight, so at least I can wake up and have a breakfast and maybe hit a park for a half day. Because, if you've got a 7 o'clock flight, they're picking you up at 4. You want to be back to the hotel by 3. If you do rope drop at 8, you can get a serious half day in a park. And what I was doing a lot of in the more recent past, which is obviously going to change a little bit now, but in the more recent past, I was using, if I was there for like 4 days on one of my shorter trips for business, I was using MGM as my final day. So I would wake up, do rope drop at MGM, hit the major rides, mull around, do some shopping, because I always find stuff that fits my genre better at Hollywood Studios, and do whatever little shopping. I'd be getting to the buses by 2, because you don't want to be rushed. You take your time, get back to the hotel, and get a refreshment, use the lavatory, and you're good to go. So definitely, if I'm coming home on a Saturday, the latest possible flight is the best for me. I don't like to pay, especially I know people who fly in that night, and I'm like, yeah, but you're basically flying in, renting a hotel room to sleep in. And it's not like, if you even if you are going to Pop's still 140, 150 a night. But I know people who do that and they'll stay at Poly, and I'm like, you literally just gave you donated $500 to the Disney College Fund is literally what you did, because $500 to fly in and just basically walk around your hotel and go to sleep. Now, I have done a lot of times too, if I can't get an early flight, I'll get an afternoon flight. If I don't have an AP at the time, I won't burn a park ticket, and I'll use that half a day for Disney Springs.
Everybody does it a little bit differently depending on what kind of, like you said, what kind of ticket do you have? What time are you going to get there? Also, you got to depend on whether or not you get there when you expect to get there. Sometimes your flights are delayed, something like that.
I remember the time I went to go meet Chris and his family 2 Junes ago. I was on a 6 a.m. flight. It is sunny skies on the East Coast from Jersey down to Florida. Not a cloud in the sky. I'm talking to Chris. He's on the ground. It's like 4 a.m. I wake him up. I'm like, how's the weather? He's like, it's fine. I'm going back to bed. And I get to the airport. Yeah, we canceled your flight. You did what? For what? Because they didn't sell enough tickets for that flight. So they canceled it. So now I'm racing. And then all of a sudden, I didn't get on a flight till 12. So And that's the tough part about making reservations and plans for that day you come in. You never know, because I didn't get on a flight till almost 12 that day. So now I'm grumpy because now I've been up since 4 a.m. and I'm not even out of Jersey yet. And it's noon. Got on the flight, got down there, and I missed 2 full buses waiting for the Disney Magical Express. And that was the last time I ever took Disney's transportation from the airport. Every time after that, I rented a car.
I will say that was the time. Yeah, you got me up that morning, and I was kind of joking around. I said, didn't I say something to you like, yeah, watch, you're going to cancel your flight or something like that?
Yes.
I was joking.
Yes.
I was joking around, just being a total jerk
you put
about
the
it.
Juju on me.
And then all of a sudden, I wake up at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I look at my phone. I'm like, oh crap! And I say it out loud, and of course, my wife hears that. She instantaneously wakes up. She's like, "What? I go, do you remember how I said I was joking about how Danny's flight was going to be canceled? Yeah, it got canceled. It's just like, oh crap! And then of course Virginia goes, "Hey, what was that all about?" It was just
Spirit Airlines will never be a sponsor of this show. We could mark them off the list very quickly.
Now the funny part is, I'm going to go ahead and say this. You do know that Spirit Airlines may be improving in the near future because they are starting to take some lessons from Disney on how to do process improvement.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's actually been some things about it that their customer satisfaction is starting to go up because they're actually implementing some of the things that they have learned from Disney on business practices.
Not even that though. Their seats are just pure plastic.
See,
if it wasn't the cheapest parking, and if that airport wasn't 22 minutes from my front door, oh god. I mean, you had to pay for everything. When you really break it down, the Spirit makes it seem like, hey, this is a great deal. But when you're a bigger guy like me, you need to get an aisle seat. Then you got to tack on bags. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can fly Southwest where I've got 2 bags for free, such more roomy seats, nicer stewardess, smoother ride. But then, comes in the fact of, well, it's an hour and 5-minute drive from my front door, and I'm paying $40 a day to park at Newark when I could pay $13. I'm in a covered garage. I'm like,
yeah. Well, the thing is that the funny part about that is that other than the parking, I wish I had only an hour and 10-minute drive to the airport. Doesn't matter what airport. Doesn't matter what airport I'm going to. I'm looking at least an hour and a half. And if I go to Indianapolis, I'm talking about 2 hours and 20 minutes, and that sounds like an awful long time to drive just to go to the airport. Trust me, it's worth it.
Sometimes your comfort is worth the distance, but there's nothing like knowing when I get off that plane in Atlantic City, because Atlantic City is basically a municipal airport. Let's call it what it is. They call it an international. It's not. It's only Spirit flies out of there. It's so nice knowing when I land, especially those times where I don't have a checked bag. I just have my backpack, stuff of clothes. I walk off that plane. I'm at my car in less than 4 minutes, and I'm basically from that door opens on the plane to when I walk in my front door, 35 minutes.
The thing of it is, when it comes down to this, when it comes to airlines, I know we've kind of derailed this one big time.
Yeah, of course.
But I'll say this. I've done a solo show talking about airlines and the best values on airlines and so on and so forth, not necessarily talking about a specific airline. The interesting part is, I'm going to really kindly ask that if people ask questions such as, what is the best airline? You have to be careful about that. It's like, what is the best airline for you? Because, a lot of people like airlines like Southwest. I'm becoming a Southwest Airlines fan, to be honest with you. And, the fact of yes, even though there was a little luggage mishap, I'm still a good fan of Southwest because of how they handled things. The thing of it is that, not everybody is going to have access to a local airport that has Southwest. Not everybody is going to, some people are going to want to go on the cheapest fare because it is what they can afford. It's what they can do. It helps them afford to go to Disney, etc. The thing of it is that everybody has different options. Believe it or not, there was a period of time that once you included all the fees and you compared to apples, I have taken many flights between Chicago and Orlando, not on Southwest, that were cheaper on American Airlines. But the fact of the matter is, I had to do that shopping. And so, those are just some things you have to kind of look into. All right. Let's go ahead and talk to another
one
more thing? Okay, go for it.
I'm gonna pull a Chris. From now until the summertime, there's gonna be a trip for Uncle Danny somewhere in there. No, I will announce my trip. Actually, I might not. No, I probably will. I don't know. I'm tossing on what I'm gonna do because I've got some major things coming down the pipeline in the next few weeks, and that could really alter it. But I think I still might announce it. I'm not sure, but just know that Uncle Danny will be in the parks from today until the summer. For like a week, somewhere in there, I'll be in there. No, but okay, keep going. I just wanted to bust you a little bit.
Smooth move, man. Smooth move. All right. So this came in today, and unfortunately, it's on my other screen. This came in from Monica Grealish, and she actually asked, and unfortunately, I have the question on my other screen on the other side of the room. I didn't prepare well, but she wanted to know about the restaurant that was in the middle of Kilimanjaro Safari. And I said to myself, the restaurant in the middle of Kilimanjaro Safari. And I had to think about that. I'm like, oh, I know what she's talking about. So here's what I found out. And I already told her this on the side. But here's what I found out. I believe she is actually referring to not a restaurant. Well, it's kind of an area where they do provide some snacks, a light meal during the Wild Africa Trek. And this is kind of like a tour that you get to take over, through the Kilimanjaro safaris. It looks like you're on some rope bridges and so on and so forth, and they actually give you a meal, and it's actually there overlooking the savannah.
You gotta go that bridge thing to get there and everything. Yeah.
Yep. And it looks really, really cool. Now, I will admit, I wanted to do that this past summer. I didn't, because it has a weight limit.
What, the bridge does or the building does?
No, well, for the tour itself, you have to be 300 pounds or under, and they do weigh you.
No.
Yes. And so it's one of those things where it's like I couldn't do it because, yes, I do weigh north of 300 pounds right now. And one time I wasn't. I'm working on it. But I believe that's what she wanted to know. And, it took a little while to actually find it because there's not a lot of pictures of, and they call it, it's called Amara. Mara, kind of go like the Mara is the food court over at Animal Kingdom Lodge. So the thing of it is that, Kimberly says that she's done the Wild Africa Trek and loved it. And you know what? That's really cool. I'm really glad to hear that, Kimberly, because I want to do it. I really do. And it's not cheap. It's a 3-hour thing.
I figured it was. How much is it?
It's like a couple $100 a person or something like that. Easy.
And that includes food, though?
It includes food, of some sort. They give you something in the middle, type of thing.
I gotta pay $300. I gotta pay a few $100 to get on a scale for you to judge me, then trek through the ridiculously hot safari in Animal Kingdom for you to give me a couple crackers and then me hike back. Yeah, I'm gonna say that's a big no.
No. It's not. Other than the weighing part, I mean that really does kind of irk me a little bit, but I can understand. There are some safety concerns, obviously, and also I'll say mobility, because let's face it, us big people, we don't always are physically fit. I mean, hey, listen, I hike, I even run. Usually when
running
chased.
To the fridge does not count.
No, I usually run when chased. I do more wogging than anything else. I mean, they
I have a very fast waddle.
Yeah, they don't allow me to actually run the state of California because they actually mistaken it for an earthquake. But the thing of it is really, you didn't catch that right off the bat. Really, you're horrible. So but sorry, I really shouldn't make fun of myself. I make fun of myself so no one else does it. But yeah, Kim says totally worth the cash. Food was great. So I may actually try to do that sometime one of my next trips. It gives me a little bit of motivation to actually lose some weight. Which is always great and easy to do in the wintertime here in Northwest Indiana. But no, that's where I would really like to try it. I would really like to say. By the way, Kim, if for some reason you have any pictures from the trek, if possible, I would love to see them. Feel free to post them over at the WDW community page if you would like. No pressure, no peer pressure. If you don't want to, hey, that's fine. But I think everybody would love to see how that goes. So
we have a question from Charlie.
What's Charlie ask?
I'm going on my first solo trip in November. I'll be in Orlando for work. Any suggestions?
I'll let you handle this since I've never done a solo trip.
Solo trips are wonderful, Charlie. Embrace them, love them, be one with the solo trip. Bro, all right. Here's my honest best advice. And I mean, I don't know why you would expect anything else from me. Eat, drink, be merry. Because that is what this trip is about. Eat where your family would never want to eat. Try things that you normally would not want to try. Go to these little go to these little bars that they have all around Disney's, Disney World, anywhere, whether it's Springs, any of the little taverns anywhere. Go enjoy the nightlife. It's now granted, I know you're there for work, so it's a little bit different, but it's wonderful that you can do what Jess said best. Do what you want when you want. You want to go take a nap? Go take a nap. You want to go eat? Go eat. You want to be one of those fat kids like me and sit on a bench with double Mickey ice cream bars? There ain't no one there to judge you. You don't know those people. You're never going to see them again. You eat those 2 Mickey premium ice cream bars, and then you go get online for a churro. It's that simple. Utilize the single rider lines on any of the parks if you're going to do that. That's always, good. So much easier to get fast passes for one person. Promise you, it's so easy to do it. And I would say the only downfall is, you'll miss your family, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, don't worry about that. You'll see them in a week. The saddest part is probably eating alone. That is a little bit awkward. I found myself eating quick service with like headphones in, watching Netflix, or simply just eating back at the room. I eventually got better with it, where I didn't care about sitting in a restaurant alone by myself. I embraced it.
That's hard.
But
that's really hard to do.
It's not bad though. Once you get past the waiter, it's like no one really knows if like your significant other or whoever you're with in the bathroom.
I did a lot of traveling. I have done a lot of traveling. I haven't traveled in a little while, but the thing of it is that I always hated traveling by myself, just because I never really wanted to go anywhere to eat by myself. I usually, like if I'm on a business trip, you know what I do? I end up going to Walmart, picking up myself a pre-prepared salad and a few chicken tenders type of thing, and a bottle of bubbly water of sorts for $7. Woohoo! But the fact of the matter is like I would end up eating a lot of quick serve meals at places around Disney. And but the thing is, here's the thing: if you wanted to do that and go and just sit somewhere and enjoy the nightlife by yourself and have a quick serve meal, not a lot of pressure, there is so much that I know I haven't even tried, especially down at Disney Springs. I mean, you want something simple? Go over to Chicken Guy. I keep on hearing people saying that Chicken Guy is actually really pretty good. You want pizza? Blaze, man. Go to Blaze Pizza. Go over to Deluxe Burger, my wife's favorite burger place on property. That's her big thing. You want to try some of that poutine? I haven't had the guts to try it yet. Good. So, but still, go and give some of those things a try.
One last thing with that. I know you go, Charlie. I know you go to Disney with your family a lot. So I will say this. Do things that not only make you happy, that maybe when you have your kids you can't do. Try things that you've never done before. Some of those little hidden things. Do your research. Contact us. Go to the WW community page. Ask around. See, what are some of those little cool little things. Explore the resorts. Just have a good time. Enjoy yourself. Eat like a fat kid on his birthday.
Oh my gosh. Our friend Nicole from Happily Ever Disney, she wrote, "Eating solo is one of my favorite things. Great for people watching, and you don't have to share."
Very true. You don't have to smack anybody's hand away.
Yeah, I know. Because, you ask my wife, and, She's like, well, I'm going to get the big burger because I know eventually Virginia is going to pick apart at it and stuff like that. It's always funny. Well, I have a triple threat question from our great friend Chris Hiller, our man on the street down at Walt Disney World. He actually has 3 questions. All of them are really pretty good. This one, it may take us a minute to answer it, but I think it'd be worthwhile to cover it. He goes, if FastPass was an additional add-on for, say, $25 per person per day, would you purchase it for use? But if it was a requirement that you purchased it for every day of your whole trip, would that possibly change your mind? And if you haven't heard some of the news, they're trying this out over at Disneyland Paris, having some kind of a paid FastPass option, which is also not too much different than what Disneyland is doing with MaxPass. And MaxPass, I think they only charge you $10 per day per person. You could do it a la carte. Now, I haven't really had too much of a chance to look this up, but there is some fear and loathing going on in the Disney realm, so to speak, that we are slowly going to a pay-for-play type of operation for FastPass. And I think that's where Chris is getting this question. So would you pay an extra $25 a person per day? Let's start with that. For you, you're only paying $25. For me, if I got the whole gang, I'm paying $125 per day for the option of having, either additional fast passes or, easier to get fast passes or something like that. And also let's not forget, they're still doing this sort of thing for, I think they're still doing this for concierge guests over at least I think it was over at the Poly, that you can do it. But, I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. What do you think? He's thinking. He's really thinking.
I mean, that's tough. I probably wouldn't.
Even for you being a solo?
Because, yeah.
I know that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because there's a lot of times you're online, they always ask for like 1 or 2 people, and you usually can skate by at the end, like jump a couple rides worth of people. I'm not a big waiter though, as it is. So I'm very tossed in between that. You know what? I'm bougie. I'd probably do it for $25 a day. And I would just stay at a value instead of a moderate. But that would be a big sacrifice.
It's only $25 a day. I mean, seriously, that's...
Yeah, but if you're there for 8 days, it's $200.
Yeah, that's true. But also, $200 is less than a differential between what you would pay between a value and a moderate.
But I'm saying that's an extra $200 that I didn't plan on spending.
No.
So if I can recoup it somewhere, it would be lowering from a moderate to a value, or possibly a value to an outside hotel.
Okay, I can see that. Now, for me, it would be it would really be dependent on what I really wanted to do. And only because, as I said, if I've got all 5 of us, and yes, I'm including the son-in-law to be, that's a lot of cash. If it's just my son, my wife, and I, it's still $75. It's still a lot of cash. I would use it judiciously. If I was going to go to, great example. If I wanted to go to Animal Kingdom and I really wanted a Flight of Passage Fast Pass, and I can get it using that, I would probably do it. Only because the last time I waited 2 hours for that particular ride in line at rope drop.
I will say this, though. There better not be a tier system.
It would have to be...
all hands on board.
It would have to be unlocked.
Everything.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, you have to unlock everything.
The second part of that question that Chris had, if you had to do it if you were required to do it for every day of your trip, I'm going to say no, because like you said, if you do it, you're staying, you stay 5 days and it's going to cost me an extra $500. for my normal family of 4. I mean,
it's 2 nights a hotel at a moderate.
It's about 2 nights at a hotel. I mean, and the thing is, I'm not going to find that kind of value in it for if I was locked into doing it. That's just my 2 cents in it.
What was the second part of the question?
That was the second part of the question. Whether or not.
No, what is it? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was mandatory. He said was the third part.
He's like, if it was mandatory to have it for length of stay, would it change your mind? I'm saying yes. I wouldn't do it.
My trips would be very limited. Very limited. I mean, listen, the ticket prices already took 1 trip out of my planning this year. It had to. With the ticket increases, it took, I'll be completely honest, it took 1 of my trips out. Now, granted, I'm still going for my 1 major trip of 7 days. I did have another 4-day trip in mind, and it physically priced me out. I mean, I get it, but now if you threw this on top of that, where I'm looking at an additional $50 a day for me and my girlfriend, and then you're tacking that on you're talking about it, that would be $400 for an 8-day trip, and then another $200 for a 4-day trip. That's an extra $600. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, you eventually have to, decide whether or not the pay for play mentality is going to be worth it. But to be honest with you, no one has said whether or not this is really going to happen. And I know there was a lot of people that were just really going crazy over that thought process, but it is what it is. I don't think it's going to happen. I'll rephrase it. If it happens, we'll hear about it. We'll report on it, but I don't necessarily think it's going to happen anytime super soon.
Nick had a question.
Yeah, what's that?
Would you ever go see a movie at Disney Springs?
I have seen a movie at Disney Springs. I actually got to see the premiere of Cars 3 a week before it was released, thanks to Disney Vacation Club. Now, would I normally have gone to see it there? Probably not. But I will tell you this: it's a very nice AMC theater. I would probably, and we've talked about seeing certain movies that, like, The Incredibles 2 came out the weekend that we were leaving for our trip last summer. Instead, we saw it the night before we left. I personally would not necessarily make it a part of my Disney vacation plans unless it was one of those really special things and you got to see it at the Dolby Cinema that's there. And that was not something that you can do, and it was really going to be a special, something that you really wanted to do. Also, if it's going to be a real rainy day and you don't have any other plans, a non-park day, hey, you know what? Go spend 2 hours at a nice movie theater. It's really nice. So, Chris, don't feed him about the movies. I don't want to waste time watching a movie I can see at home. No, so Nick,
yeah, I mean, if it's a good Disney movie, I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, the AMC movie theaters there are really nice. I will tell you that, and they're big, so it's not like it's going to be really crowded, and they're very well maintained. At least when I was there. A couple of the theaters actually have the dine-in option where you can actually like have dinner and a movie type of thing. So you could do something like that, and have some fun with it. But it's okay. It's not like super duper great food. I mean, it's good food. Don't get me wrong. Personally, if I was going to spend time there, I'm going to the Dolby Cinema. And because I'll tell you right now, that is such an epic way to watch movies. Oh man, it is such a nice sound, awesome picture, beats IMAX any day of the week. Simple as that. So, is this one of those?
One more question from our listener base.
What's that?
What is your favorite Disney roller coaster? Expedition Everest.
See,
my favorite.
That's your favorite? You're gonna say that as your favorite? That is really good. Although I'm gonna have to say Rock and Roller Coaster is my favorite. I could sing the whole soundtrack to Rock and Roller Coaster as we're going off from the minute that you take off. And I feel bad for the person sitting next to me, but it's exactly what happens. And it's absolutely fabulous. I am, It's kind of funny. Mary actually Mary called it. Yes, Mary. Mary's been listening to us for a long time.
A little too long, Mary.
Yeah, it's one of those things. But I'm a big rock and roller coaster person.
This is the last question we will answer.
Okay, what's that?
From Justin.
What's that?
Chris and Danny, do you think with all the resorts being announced that Disney needs to build a new park, and what direction should they go? Well, we've been saying they should be. That's basically been. My idea has been that they should be building a new park. Chris made it more eloquent and basically said there's a reason they keep building all these hotels. There's going to have to be a fifth gate eventually because you need the rooms before the park. You don't want the park before the rooms.
I still believe that.
So once again, yes, I believe that to be true. What direction would they go in? I mean, you can go with the villains aspect. You can go with the nostalgia park. I could see maybe now. I could possibly see a Tokyo Sea style, some aquatic thing.
And the thing is, people have always said, those that have been to Disney Sea have said it is by far the best Disney park in the world. That is for those that have been. Unfortunately, I have yet to go to the Land of the Rising Sun in order to see this. I want to someday. My wife and I were just talking about it. My wife is like, "No, I'm not going overseas." I'm like, "Virginia, you want to go overseas?"
Unfortunately, it's not going to be anything that we want. It probably will, and that's unfortunate. I mean, Disney Sea sounds amazing. I would love a nostalgia park, bring some of the old rides back. I would love maybe like a Zootopia and In-N-Out, a Moana, like all these big hits, put them all in there, which doesn't make sense. But maybe that's why, controversy. Maybe that's why we haven't seen Moana, because they're waiting to build Disney Sea. I mean, listen, it hasn't even been talked about, so that'd be a really silly move, because by the time Disney Sea actually got built, Moana would more likely be a dead movie.
The interesting
it doesn't have its pull. I'm sorry, again.
Here's part of the problem. We talk about a park that is revolving around intellectual property. The thing of it is that I truly think that if you look at all the other parks, what's the one thing they have in common? Their theme is not based upon a certain piece of movie or intellectual property. You have Animal Kingdom, which, is very much nature-based. You have Hollywood Studios. Yes, it's about the glim and glamour of Hollywood back in the 1930s, 1940s. You have Magic Kingdom, which is, if you think about it, it starts with Main Street USA and then kind of branches out into different types of adventures. You have Epcot, the world of tomorrow type of thing. None of it is based upon specific intellectual property. So if you're going to do a fifth gate, you're going to have more of a theme than you are going to have the intellectual property wrapped around it. There are a lot of people that want to say, make it some sort of a darker themed villains or beastly kingdom or something to that extent. You can do that if you can really figure out what that theme is going to be and have enough that you can rotate in and out of the lands of that themed park, that you can make it something that will regenerate itself every 10 years. Because if you think about it, that's about as long as an attraction really lasts. It's about 10 to 15 years before they either revamp it or remove it to replace it with something that's a little bit more, a little bit more either say modern or more relevant. Except for a lot of the classics. Magic Kingdom kind of doesn't get touched in that area, but think about some of the different parks and some of the different attractions that have been come along.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Danny. I mean, I think that's the case. There's still a lot of speculation. I love to talk about it because I love to think about it. I don't know.
Yeah. But with that being said, Chris,
yes,
why don't you take us away?
I will. And before I do, just a little note. Once again, if we didn't get to the question that you've passed on to us, we will get to it at other shows. For those of you who have posted questions over in the comment section, do keep an eye out for possibly a response from myself or Danny sometime in the next day or two. And of course, if you have another question or anything that you'd like to give us a question for the show, or even a regular full show idea, Behind the Ears Podcast at gmail.com. And Danny has one more thing.
Yeah, see, there's this crazy guy in our comment section right here talking all this jibber jabber. His name's Rudy. He has a little podcast called Crazy for Disney. Don't check it out because of him, because he's actually terrible. Check it out. His wife does a fantastic job at the show. He's just a waste of space. He just takes up too much of the screen. He wants to replace Carousel Progress. I want to start a petition to replace him off his own show. You shouldn't be allowed in the Disney. I don't even know why you're here. You should not be allowed to comment. Rudy is rude. Okay? That is my movement. I stand by it. Please, Chris, take us away.
Rudy, you're still my friend, just to let you know. Here we go.
I'll dislike you for both of us.
You heard the show, and we hope you want more. Well, feel free to join us over at our social media platforms. Instagram and our Facebook page can be found at Behind the Ears Podcast. Our webpage is behindtheearspodcast.net, and our email is behindtheearspodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @BehindTheEarsPC. And come and join the conversation about all things Disney over at the WDW community page. Don't forget to rate and review the show over at iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as it really helps us get the word out about the show. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or the Podbean app. Also, you can listen to us on Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and via Alexa and Google Home.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, everybody, for tuning into another episode of Behind the Ears Podcast. It's been a fantastic episode until that final minute when Rudy decided to come ruin the party. With that being said, thank you, everybody, for following us, for listening to us. If you have not liked the Behind the Ears Podcast Facebook page, head on over to do that now. Trisha would kill me if I didn't mention it, so why don't you guys go request to join the WDW community page. Let's try to get to 5,000 members before end of year. With that being said, everybody, like Chris said, follow us on the social media platforms. Hit us with those 5-star reviews on Facebook and iTunes. With that being said, tuck your kids in tight, wear your seatbelts. Everybody have a safe and wonderful weekend. I will see you on Tuesday. I am Uncle Danny. Have a wonderful evening.
And I'm Mr. Chris. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining. We really super appreciate all the support. What a great show tonight, getting to your questions. It may not be one of the shows that we do all the time, but we'd love to hear from you. So make sure you keep those questions coming. Well, I'll tell you what, that wraps it up for tonight. We can't wait to see it, and can't wait till we see you on Tuesday, and I can't talk at the end of the day. So you have an absolutely fantastic and magical day. Take care.